I don't accept that we have to continue to send $800 million every single day helping to fuel the war on terrorism because of our addiction to foreign oil and melting the polar ice caps in the bargain. I know 65 degrees in late October is nice, but there are profound implications, moral implications for future generations to what we're doing right now. We know what we have to do. We have to cap the emission of greenhouse gases. We've got to increase our use of renewable fuels. We've got to focus on renewable energy sources like solar and wind and biodiesel. We've got to increase fuel efficiency on cars. If we increased fuel efficiency to 40 miles per gallon, we would save the equivalent of all the oil we import from the Persian Gulf. Imagine what that would do for our environment, for our economy, but also for our foreign policy. And when I made this proposal, by the way, to increase fuel efficiency standards, I didn't do it in front of some environmental groups in California. I went to Detroit in front of the automakers. And I have to say the room, Duvall, was really quiet. Nobody clapped. But that's okay, because part of what you should want from your next president is not just somebody who's going to tell you what you want to hear. You need somebody who's going to tell you what you need to hear. You need somebody who's going to tell you the truth. That's the least you can expect from the next president of the United States of America. Most of all, I don't accept that there is a contradiction between our moral standing in the world on one hand and our safety and security on the other. Those two concepts are not contradictory, they are complementary. They go hand in hand. You know, I have said since 2002 we shouldn't have fought this war, and we need to bring this war to a close. We have to be as careful getting out as we were careless getting in. But we can get our combat troops out safely. 1 to 2 brigades a month, we can have them out in 16 months. We need to start now. We need to persuade the Congress to stop giving George Bush a blank check. But if we don't do it now, one thing I can promise is the first thing I will do as President of the United States is gather together the Joint Chiefs of Staff and say, you've got a new mission. A mission that's going to make us safer, and that is to start bringing our troops home, because we're going to start focusing on diplomacy. We're going to start focusing on humanitarian assistance. We're going to change the paradigm in the Middle East. But just changing the war alone is not enough. We've got to change the mindset that got us into the war. We've got to change the conventional thinking that feeds constantly on fear. We have to start talking not just to our friends, we've got to start talking to our enemies. I got a little argument with one of my opponents, Senator Clinton, about this. She said, no, that's irresponsible. You might be used for propaganda purposes. I am not worried about losing a propaganda battle to a bunch of tin-pot dictators. I'm not worried about that. John F. Kennedy once said, you should never negotiate out of fear, but we should never fear to negotiate. Strong countries and strong presidents reach out to their adversaries and tell them where America stands. The only way we lose a propaganda battle is when we lose a sense of what our values and our ideals are. And that's why I'm looking forward as president to going before the world community, going before the United Nations General Assembly and saying, I am President of the United States of America, and America is back. America is ready to lead. And yes, we are going to lead militarily. We are going to get out of the wrong battlefield in Iraq and go after al-Qaeda. But we're also going to lead by example. So we're going to lock down loose nuclear weapons and encourage and insist on other countries giving up their nuclear weapons. But we're going to start by negotiating with Russia as well to start reducing our own nuclear stockpiles, because that will give us the kind of moral standing that we need to reduce nuclear proliferation. We're also going to lead by listening to other countries. So we're going to say to the world, we want to work with you. We want to work with you to build schools around the world that teach math and science instead of hatred of America and hatred of Israel. We want to work with you to bring an end to HIV/AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa. We want to work with you to bring an end to the genocide in Darfur, because we're not a nation that turns a blind eye to slaughter. We are going to lead by example and by deed by closing down Guantanamo and restoring habeas corpus. Because we are not a nation that locks people up without charging them. We're not a nation that sends prisoners off to other countries in the dead of night where they can be tortured. That's not who we are. That's not the American idea. That's not the reason that you're here tonight. That's not the reason that Duvall ran for office. That's not the reason I want to be president. I want to be president because I am proud of this country. I am profoundly proud of this country. But I expect more from us than we've been getting. I want a country that is measured not by its fear, but by its courage. Not by convenience, but by conviction. That's the country that I want to lead. That's the direction we need to go. But let me say this. I can't do this on my own. I can't do it by myself.